time, yeah, making a difference, one cup at a time. Tea time. So be sure to grab your tea, grab a seat, and tune in to Miss Liz. Tea time, making a difference, one cup at a time. Tea time, yeah. Tea time.
Well, welcome back to Tea Time. That's right, Miss Liz is back. I was here this afternoon with two incredible couples that returned on Tea Time. And tonight I have Sean Bridges in the house, and we're going to talk thriller. We're going to talk screenwriting. And his tea tonight is totally excited and attitude. That's the type of tea we're going to be serving tonight with all of you guys. But before we get started on all of that, we're going to get you over to Miss Liz's YouTube channel. We're going to get you to ring that little doorbell so you can get notified when these tea times are live. And you can join the live stream with your questions, comments, and support and all that good stuff. If any of the tea times resonate with you, I do encourage you to share them with your friends, family, co-workers, all of that. You can listen to them in the morning, afternoon, in the evening, on the road, in your home, at a picnic, at an event if you're bored, but no, don't tell anybody I told you that. And again, I want to thank all of my supporters because I could not do this without all of you guys. So let's get the disclaimer, let's get some bio, and let's get some tea serving with Sean Bridges tonight. And we're going to talk about his new book called The Gunbarrel Highway. Disclaimer for Miss Liz's Tea Time live show. Miss Liz, myself, is going live using StreamYard. Before leaving a comment, please grant StreamYard permission to see your name at StreamYard.com. Please be advised that the content brought forward for any Tea Time show hosted by myself, Miss Liz, is always brought forth in good faith. However, may bring forth dialogues and opinions that are not representative of my platform. The facts and information are perceived to be accurate at the giving time of airing. All Tea Time guests and audience participants are responsible for using their good judgment and taking any action that may relate to the discussion. The content brought forward may include discussions for some where they may be emotionally at risk. It's significant to know that this show is engaging in discussion forums only to offer and inspire awareness and connection, and is not for panelist discussion. You may freely contact me, Miss Liz, through my email at participating tonight's show in any aspect. I'm myself, Miss Liz, and we'll see you at a later show at a later date time. And again, all Tea Time shows are on a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. So now a little bit about my guest. Well, my guest is in Germany. Nickel award-winning screenwriter and author. He's the Stephen King dollar baby with his festival-winning audio productions of One for the World. His Audible Parade Productions created a serially at work on their next horror suspense audio series, Parasite Zero. His screenplay Beginner's Luck is a 2020 winner. He produced and directed 2 documentaries in the Caribbean, one in Jamaica for teachers and students 2020. He's worked on a number of projects for Troublemaker Studios out of Austin, Texas. Welcome,
hey, Ms. Liz.
Welcome, Sean. In Germany?
Oh, it's Wiesbaden, Germany. Yeah, I was born there. I went to college in Heidelberg and Munich. So I spent, my father was in the military, so I grew up kind of moving around every 3 years, like an internal alarm clock, and then finally settled in Texas in 1999. But yeah, I was born in Wiesbaden, Germany, and went to school there.
So, okay, so let's take you back to that Germany. Who were you as a little boy, and who are you now, Sean?
I still am a kid, to be honest with you. I was a little kid who was always the new kid, always. Like, it always seemed like every time we moved, we never moved down the street. We always moved to a different state or continent. So it was always and not to date myself, but this was pre-cell phone and pre-internet kind of time. So when you moved, it was really, you were erasing the chalkboard and starting over from scratch. I, in a way, always found that to be I always felt different. It took me a while to find a place where I didn't feel like I was outside the fishbowl, but I loved that experience, getting to connect with new cultures and new people, and having to learn to kind of fit in instead of fading in the background, and trying to connect with new people all the time. And honestly, I still find myself doing that even as an adult.
I've never
been living
heard
in
that
San
saying before. Oh, fishbowl.
Oh, you're freezing
So,
up.
are you are you are you back?
Oh, I'm here. Yeah. I could see me. I just all of a sudden you locked up, and I was like, oh, I wonder what's going on.
Feels a little warm host technology, right? That good
Yeah,
old
that's
going
fine.
live, right? Live is the blooper season, right? We have a little bit of bloopers
Live is
here and there
fun.
from
Yeah.
time to time. So, Sean, I've never heard that saying before. Out of the fishbowl. So,
I think it was just, you're coming into a new environment with new people. You're not sure if you fit there. And I felt like, since I never the question that takes me an hour to answer, because I don't know where I'm from, and I was born, moved again. So it took me a while to fit Austin, Texas. When I moved there in '99, it felt like home to me. It was very, it felt like this really isn't for me, or I'm not really, it was easy. That makes sense, and it was easy to kind of, when it was time to move, whether it was it's 3 years up, you're done. I would pack up and go somewhere else and try something else. I see. It seems not on the cheap, maybe. I mean, I would say for any kind of vibe.
okay, I was just seeing all these
School, which was funny because it was students from everywhere, and I love that experience with connecting with everybody and meeting people from cultures and countries that I would have never imagined going to, and it was always amazing to me. So I've always been, we didn't live on the military base. We lived. My German is not too bad. I haven't used it for years, but when I actually have a beer or two, it comes back. It's in my head somewhere. Yeah, funny. But
it's in there, it comes out when it needs.
yeah, or if I'm talking to somebody, it's I always was fascinated with people who spoke many languages, and like, how do you do those things that adults, or how do you say that the right way? They just impulsively will say it, and that's anybody that I've known that speaks 5 or more languages, it blows my mind. Yeah, I love that experience. So just connecting with other people, other cultures, and meeting people from all over, honestly, it was great.
I love that you just spoke in German, because my mom was that gave me my first cup of tea, and she was from Germany, and she taught me how to serve that language. My German sucked. I say, I know.
Oh, we're getting locked up again. What is going on? That's
now,
sad.
but we used to talk a lot of German.
It froze again. Aw. I don't know why it's freezing. I hope you come back. I hope she comes back. Oop, it went out. Hey, I lost you all of a sudden. Everyone can see and hear me. Hi, everyone. I can't see. There, I'm back out again. Aw.
Are you there, Sean?
I'm here. Yeah, I can hear you.
You know, every time I have a good tea time going on, guys.
Oh, that was fun though. All of a sudden it froze. I was like, oh, okay, she's dripped there, and then you clicked out, and that's fine though. It's fine.
That's a good old live show, right? We're
That's
gonna have
perfect.
some bloopers, right? So
Yeah,
Sean,
technical
before
difficulties are not a problem.
right before the wormhole comes back and gets Miss Liz again, let's get into the book. I want to get into the book, but I want to get into the understanding of what got you into the thriller genre.
I started writing seriously as a screenwriter, and I liked thrillers, but I tend to jump genres to just see what I was comfortable with. And my father's a painter. I can't draw anything, so I think I draw with words. And it was something that I learned on my own. I didn't go to. I went to college for an international business and marketing degree, so I probably should be a banker. But I went a different direction in life, and that's where I won the Nickel Award, which was sponsored by basically the Academy Awards. I beat out thousands of other people to go there. I was invited. I had Los Angeles representation, and then tried to work as a screenwriter and wrote a number of maybe about a dozen screenplays in different genres. But the suspense thriller genre is always like a comfortable sweater. And I tried to write my first novel in 2010, and it was successful, but I ended up self-publishing it. Gunbarrel Highway is my fourth book that I've written, but it's my first professionally published novel. So I connected with a publisher out of New York, and they picked it up. That was a whole process in itself of going through the editing process, finding them, pitching it to them, having them decide they wanted to take me on under contract, then working with me on editing it, then getting to the point where it's going to be released on November 20th. But it was an idea. Honestly, it was going to be a screenplay years ago that I just never figured out. It was a short. I had a good beginning, but I didn't know where to go with it, and I just threw it in a drawer. And then years later, I found that and reread what I had, salvaged a few pieces of it, and decided, oh, this might make an interesting book, and based it on where I'm living in Central Texas. And yeah, it's become my first professionally published novel now. So it's just weird where things end up going sometimes.
So how did you get the name Gunbarrel?
Gunbarrel Highway, it was initially, this was called Hit and Run, which I thought was too generic and just sounded flat. And Gunbarrel Highway, it was a song from Midnight Oil, which was a group in the 80s, again showing my
You're giving your age.
But it was an album that called Diesel and Dust that I liked in high school, and it was like a deep cut track. I don't even think it was on, but anyway, that title, I remember jumping out at me and thinking that's a great title, because it's basically a guy who's on the run, and people are trying to, whether it's police officers or vigilantes, everybody's trying to get this guy. And I thought that's a great title. Come to find out, there really is a Gunbarrel Highway in Australia. It's a flat 1,500 mile road that just goes out in the middle in the Northwest Territories. So it makes me like, oh, that would be a bucket list, amazing life trip to go drive that road, something out of Mad Max probably, but that would be amazing to go do. But yeah, I just thought that title was great, honestly. So sometimes titles take a while to materialize. And this one, when I stumbled upon that, I thought that's the title. That's what this is. This guy's in a Gunbarrel Highway.
There's your number 3 trip.
Yeah, I know. That's
in the backstage, right?
It's in line. Yeah, I would love to. I've never been to that part of the world. I would love to go, but that was the inspiration for the title, where all that came from.
I think that would be really cool if you went to Australia.
Yeah, so I would love to. It's always been a place I've envisioned and thought about, and we'll end up there. We'll go sometime, not for just a couple days, but go for an extended period of time and just experience it the way you should. That would be amazing. Yeah.
You're gonna get off this tea time. You're gonna get your crew together, and we're going to Australia.
Go down there, yeah. But the funny thing is, Texas and Australians seem to connect, because I think the wildlife and the the weather and the climate all seem to kind of match up. So Australians love Texas and Texans love Australians. I don't know why that is, but that's something I've heard. So I can imagine that everything's out to hurt you. All kinds of, every plant and wildlife seems to be scary. So it kind of fits that mindset. Yeah, that's pretty much what Texas is right now. So,
well, and it would make a good thriller, right?
It would. Yeah, I would love to go. So it's one of those that it's definitely on my list of mental, I have a mental checklist of things that I've got to get to eventually. And it's in there. Yeah, I'd love to go.
So I want to talk about these Stephen King short stories because I found you on I found you on there. So tell us a little bit about that.
I heard about the Dollar Baby program when I was a kid in high school. Again, dating myself, I remember seeing on VHS. So I keep going back to all these
VHS. You're giving yourself really away, Sean.
But I watched it as a kid, and Frank Darabont, who directed Shawshank Redemption and The Mist, was a Dollar Baby, and they released some. Basically, what it is Stephen King will license his short stories to people for $1. And that for the rights to use and do anything you want with that story. And I'd heard about this program, but had no idea how to apply. And decades go by, and I stumbled upon an article that kind of led to where you would actually apply to him in Maine to become a Dollar Baby. And I thought, then they weren't accepting applications, I guess. And I tagged it through the rest of the year. And then at the beginning of this would have been 2020, right before COVID. I applied out of the blue thinking there's no way I'm going to get picked. And they even said, don't expect to hear anything for another 6 months. And I thought, yeah. And then that week they reached out to me and said, we would like to offer you, we'd like to bring you into the program. And I felt like I won a golden ticket, basically. I couldn't believe it. And I picked One for the Road, which was kind of a sequel to a story he wrote called Salem's Lot, which is a famous kind of vampires in a small town kind of book that he wrote in the 70s. And it was in the book Night Shift, which was important to me because my father gave me that. It was one of the first Stephen King books I read. My dad gave it to me when I was a kid. And so I got to put him in the production as a guy ordering a drink at the bar in Tuki's bar. And I thought that brought it full circle to have my dad part of the program when he was the one that introduced me to this book. But we ended up doing it as an audio drama, 40-minute audio drama. This was during COVID, so we had to take all sorts of precautions to do it, but it was super fun. And we were the first licensed audio production, the first Dollar Baby that was allowed to do it that way. So that was a neat experience too. And then I took it on the festival circuit. It won a number of awards around the world, honestly. It placed maybe about a dozen film festivals and audio festivals. And it's out there. It's still one of my proudest things. I think taking his short story and turning it into an audio drama, which in itself is strange. It's like writing for the blind. You're writing something for people to, hear audibly, to be able to understand the story without a narrator or anybody telling you the story. So the actors and the sound effects and the music all have to be able to explain what's going on. So taking that story and breaking it down to make it work is still one of the best things I've ever done as a writer. I just had such a blast doing that. Yeah, it's one of my favorite things I've ever done, honestly.
So what got you into screenwriting?
It was cheap. It didn't cost a lot. It was just, I learned on the fly. I learned trial and error. I remember the first time I tried to write a script, I wrote, I didn't really even know what I was doing. So it was like, write what you know was a concept I heard about as a kid. And I was working at a hotel in Heidelberg and had a crazy night as a hotel clerk working the graveyard shift. And so I used that as inspiration to write my first screenplay. And No Parent Has an Ugly Child, but that one hasn't aged well. It was not that great of a script, but without that script, I wouldn't have gone on to write the other ones. So it's very important to me, this first one I wrote called Waiting for the Donut Man, but it was kind of a clerk's slacker hybrid. I liked it. It was just fun to do. And I learned on the fly how to structure them, how they look. And it was just a desire I've always been a film geek. So I think this was kind of my way of, let me see if I could take this seriously at all. It was that time in my life where I was, maybe I want to be a pilot. Maybe I want to do this. Maybe I want to do this. And I would try different things and then this one hit in Austin. I went to Austin Film Festival. I was moving to Florida for an insurance job. I didn't want to work there, so I was taking my time driving from Virginia to Florida. And en route, I found out I had placed on the Austin Film Festival. Flew to Austin for the festival. This would have been 97. Had an amazing time. I felt like I found a connection of people. I spent the whole week at the film festival downtown Austin, and said I would move there someday. And 2 years later, I moved to Austin in 99. So it was another catalyst in life that, I just tried something and it worked. It was something I enjoyed doing. So I kept going and doing it again and again and again, and was able to, get some festival success. And that led to kind of cracking the gates of Hollywood open, and was hip pocketed by CAA, and went out for meetings and had optioned a couple scripts. It was a wild time.
So during that time, Sean, have you met any incredible people?
Oh, sure. Yeah. You meet different people. You go on different meetings. All right. This is my favorite kind of meeting story, because I would go on meetings at production companies. I was still blown. I remember going to James Cameron's production company, and I was floored. I was like looking at all the displays, and they're trying to take me down for the meeting, and I'm not wanting to, I'm taking my, look at this. Wow, look at this. And honestly, when you go to these places, it's like going to a dentist's office. You go in, you sit down, there's a receptionist. She asks you if you want a drink. You say yes, because you're going to be talking. So you get a bottle of water. Then you go into a room with a few executives, and then you're either there to talk about a specific script, or it's a meet and greet where they've heard about you and they want to find out, you have material going out in the industry. They want to know who you are, or you might have something for a project or a book that they're doing. So I kind of got to run all over Hollywood and do these meetings. I would fly in, was living in Austin. I would fly in and then go around and do meetings. I got a meeting at Nicolas Cage's company on Sunset Strip. Was right across the street from the Hustler store. I remember that. And parking. And I go up the elevator. I go into Saturn Films. I think Saturn Films was the company. And there was a German Shepherd dog in there in the reception. And there was one other person who clearly was scared to death of dogs. And she was at the far end of the room. And I love dogs. So I kind of went up to the dog and said, "Hi, buddy." And the dog was responding to me. And I sat down and waited to be called in for the meeting. And I went in and pitched, I guess I was pitching I think a werewolf Western script I wrote called High Moon, and a medical drama called Pandora's Box that I was thinking of putting together, and just different ideas. And Journeyman, the script that had gotten me there, which was a time travel adventure, like a Twilight Zone. And I left the meeting, and the receptionist was like, "Well, congratulations, you got to read." And I'm like, "Yeah, they seem interested in the material." She's like, No, you got to read before you even walked in there. And I was like, "Well, how did that happen?" And she's like, "Oh, Nick's dog liked you. And if the dog liked you, you got to read." And I thought, well, that's brilliant. So I didn't even realize that was a thing, but it seemed nothing came of it other than that story, but it was really a cool meeting. And I got a bunch of those. Yeah. Different types of production company meetings and what that whole experience is like. And it was wild. That was a good time to get out there and just go and pitch. And, I've had scripts that have materialized from pitches in the room where they responded to them. And I went and wrote it, and wrote drafts, and then turned material in. So you were always kind of writing, always hustling, always kind of pitching projects and moving.
Well, I'm glad that you put that out there, because a lot of people think like, oh, you just write a script and boom, it's a movie, right?
Oh, I remember meeting a woman who she wrote a draft so she could buy a house. And I guarantee she's got to still be renting. It's one of these, like, it's a marathon. You write and you rewrite and you edit and you change, and nothing's ever done. I think the best, like, when is a screenplay finished? When you just can't stand it anymore. I always thought that was the best writing advice. It's like, you've messed with it so much, you're done with it. And I have a couple scripts like that where I'm like, I just do not want to get back in there again. So it's done as far as I'm concerned. It's definitely a marathon, not a sprint. It's a long-term goal. And the festival circuit was how I got in. That's how I got there. I got Los Angeles interest, and then just kept writing and worked with agents and managers and went that route.
Yeah, when you said it was like going to the dentist, I was like, oh my God, that's like a horror for me. Like dentist office is like a place I avoid. Like it's like a vampire place. Like you stay away.
That was so strange is how, because they all had a fish tank or some kind of thing. They all had a receptionist. And what would happen is at the end of the day, I would go to my hotel room and have a stack of water bottles from all the different meetings I have. So I would always take a picture of like my 7 or 8 water bottles stacked up, because you would always kind of have to be talking. And even little tricks like you go into a room and there's always a hardback chair in the room. Go grab the chair and bring it over to the desk, because if you sit in the couch, you sink down lower than the desk. And if you're sitting in the chair, it was just, weird little things like that would help in a way. But it really was that kind of pedestrian. It was very, I think when people think of Hollywood, they think of the dream factory. I focused on the factory aspects of it. It was a job, and there was a way to do it. And the dream was always exciting. And I mean, getting to go on studio lots, and, you pull up and the guy checks your name and there's like the big Warner Brothers tower or something, or it's just amazing to get to do those kind of things. But the studio backlot is pretty bland. It's just some, empty, some hangars and bungalows, and doesn't really look like anything. So it's kind of wild when you get in there.
Well, and it's nice to put that out there, because everyone thinks Hollywood, right? Oh, fame, fortune, instant spotlight. There's a lot of work that goes behind all of these movies and films and books and all of that, right?
Yeah, when you see the credits roll, there's a lot of names of a lot of people involved at all aspects, and it takes years sometimes. What I've also discovered is when you meet people in LA, if they were interested in a script, it didn't matter anything else I wrote. That's what they wanted to focus on, and they never let it go. And they also have no sense of time, so they could talk to you 10 years later, and it's like they spoke to you last week. Like, hey, how you doing? And I'm like, I haven't spoke to you since 2001 or something. It's like, yeah, life's been good. It's just it's a different animal. It's a different way of being there. Now the industry is going through huge changes now, but it's still an exciting, anytime, LA is exciting, but it's a lot like Las Vegas to me. 2 or 3 days and I'm done. I got to get out of there. I've had my fill. So I never wanted to live there, but I liked going in and going to meetings and then flying out.
Well, it seems like it's a busy, like almost going shopping right in a shopping mall. It's so busy, right? It's just go, 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 go.
And nothing is centralized. Everything is scattered everywhere. So everywhere you have to go is across town, and every highway is a traffic jam. So it just takes a while. And again, I'll date myself. This is pre-cell phones. I was like MapQuest and things like that, just, trying to figure out where I was going. And I get lost going around the block. So it was a wild thing for me to do, to like, okay, I got to go to Burbank to Center Studio City. It's like, I can do that. And I try to figure out my way around. It was wild. Yeah, it was always wild.
It sounds like you have a lot of adventure in your life there, Sean.
I think life should be like that. It goes up and down, but I like living a fun life. I like taking chances. I have a lot of failure. I'm on a first name basis with failure. We get along fine, but I don't let it beat me. And I'll try different things. And I've had so many, when one door closes, something else opens. I mean, it's a cliche, but I found that to be true, where if something ends and I think, well, that's it. There've been plenty of times where, like I was with CAA for a few years. I remember I just hit a festival with a new script and my agent said, that's great. We're no longer going to be working with you. And I was like, well, okay. So it was a good 6-year run. And I thought, well, I'm done. And then a year later, I'm doing a documentary in Kingston, Jamaica. And then a year after that, I'm doing a documentary in Port of Spain, Trinidad. And I didn't see that coming at all. And then the books and then trying that, there was no reason for me to be an author. It was just, oh, let me see if I can get work out to an audience this way. The audio dramas was something that came about. I was in a place of like, things aren't going my way. I was asked to be a judge at the Austin Film Festival. And I said, yeah. And it got me a badge for the festival. And I attended some 90-minute panel on a whim that was called audio theater, and discovered it was like radio dramas from the 50s, but using modern technology to distribute it to an audience. So I love that idea. And it was another way to get material out to an audience. I'd never been in a recording studio or anything. It was just a new way of doing things. And an old way, but for me, it was neat. It was new. And I thought, this is kind of it's another way to get material out to an audience. Let me try that. And so I've always been open to trying things.
Well, it's nice to get into different aspects, right? Different branches and avenues.
I think it makes life exciting. And honestly, when I was a screenwriter, the only people that were reading my work were either agents or managers or production companies. And that was it. And nobody else was seeing any of these things. And I thought, all this is going to end up in a box that nobody's ever going to see. What, so it started making me think, what are other avenues to get material basically out to the public, which is what I really wanted to do. And that's where, let me try to see if I can write a novel, and learning how to do that. And was a whole experience in self-publishing, and then going through the publishing, system, and everything that you do to get to a professionally published novel is a long-term. I wrote Gunbarrel Highway in a year, then it took a year to find a home, then it took a year to go through editing and all the things I had to go through. So when it comes out in November, that's been a 3-year process to get from me writing the best book I could to literally it coming out on shelves. And now it's like, okay, that's the only way I would ever write a novel, going through the editing, having editors look at your work is so important, and they find things you can't see, and it's so worthwhile, and it only makes your work that much better. So I would sing the praises of editors all day. And I love that. And working on a new audio drama with about 50 voice actors that's coming out next year. We have so much fun. There's so much talent here in Central Texas, whether it's Austin, San Antonio, or the Hill Country, Dallas. I connect with professional actors from stage, screen, movies. It's amazing. Working at a recording studio. I'd never been in one before. Now I work at a recording studio in Blanco, Texas all the time. It's just, I think, always opening myself to new things, trying new things, getting out there. I think it's important. That's how I will always, I think, live life. I don't want to live it any other way.
Well, I think it's important, right, to have that trial and error, and it's okay to be good with failure, because then you know that you're being true to yourself, you're being authentic to yourself as well.
Well, I tell my nieces and nephews, I say, look, you can fail, that's fine, but the worst thing you can do is not try. If you want to do something and not try, I think that's the kind of thing you regret forever. And as you get older, you're like, oh, I wish I would have taken that opportunity. I wish I would have done that. And I don't want to have those. I would rather, well, let's give it a shot. Let's try it. And that's always been my mindset. And I don't know if that comes back to just being a new kid and moving around all the time, or just willing to take risks and chances. Even with this new book, I work as a bartender right now at a whiskey distillery in Central Texas, which is a very Texas thing to do. That feels like a stamp in my Texas passport, actually. But I'm investing in myself to get the book out. To hopefully that people will respond to the new novel. The early reviews have been really positive, and I'm taking a chance on myself. And I think those are the best kind of chances you can take in life, is chances on yourself.
So Sean, what got you into bartending?
My grandfather was a bartender. It was one of those things I enjoyed doing. I don't go to parties well, so I like to keep busy, if that makes sense. I would go to parties and clean up. Or I just like to be like, I go to a party like a NASCAR driver. I go round and around in a circle till I crash and burn, or it's over. I can get out of there. It's just a weird way. I feel uncomfortable in those situations. But if I'm doing something, I like that so much better. And bartending has a craft to it. I like craft cocktails. I like making cocktails and making drinks. There's an art form to it. So again, I think it was one of those things that I took a class in bartending last year in Texas and practiced. It had to be a license. You have to have a license from the TABC Liquor Authority in Texas to become a bartender. So I went and got my training for that and loved it. And it was just one of those, hey, I want to do this. I was doing it at parties and making drinks, and I thought I want to just get some more training on and be able to make other drinks and learn more about it. And that led me to a job this year at this tasting room in Blanco, which I love. I'm having the best time there. It's hard work, but I also enjoy it. I enjoy the patrons. I don't drink, so I drink pineapple juice and orange juice and kind of talk to everybody, and it's fun.
So do you have a signature drink?
Old fashioned. I love making an old fashioned. It's everybody likes it differently. Some people like it sweeter. Some people like it more whiskey. Some people like more cherry juice. But yeah, I love making an old fashioned from scratch with about anything is a lot of fun. It's still a drink I like to put together, and I make a mean rum punch, so that's a good one too.
So when there's a party, everybody calls you, right?
They actually do, yeah. Anytime we do family parties, they give me like make that rum. It's like a rum punch or other signature cocktails, or I'll make a vat of it, like a batch of it, and bring it to the party. And yeah, that's, instead of bringing like a fruit salad or something, I bring the alcoholic drink. So yeah, bring that thing you make, like bring that one. Like, okay, I can do that.
That's cool. So, Sean, I want to go back to the Stephen King. Have you ever met Stephen King in person?
No, and that was probably the one thing that I was hoping would come out of this. I communicated with his secretary through the whole thing, and she was wonderful. His office was wonderful, and I thought that would be the cherry on top, actually getting to hear from him. All I knew was that, you know, we had won festivals with it. I'm very proud of it, but no, I would still love to have that connection. That would have been amazing. But Margaret, his secretary, was as close as I got. So.
And what Stephen King movie changed your life?
Shawshank Redemption was probably the big one. It still makes me cry. I know what's coming, and I still cry at the end. His books, The Running. I'm a big Richard Bachman guy, who was his pseudonym. I collect Richard Bachman paperbacks because they were put out. He wrote under a pseudonym in the 70s and 80s, and wrote 5 books until it was discovered. So I became a collector for Bachman books, whether they were American publisher or British publisher. And I actually I've got 6 of the 8 paperbacks, and I've got editions of Thinner, editions of Blaze. Richard Bachman, his pseudonym, there was something about his books, The Running Man, The Long Walk, road work, that I just love. Absolutely love those books. I'll reread them all the time just for inspiration. And Elmore Leonard, I'm a big Elmore Leonard fan. He's also another novel, and Richard Matheson. Those are novelists that I will reread their work a lot, just to feel that spark that I felt when I first read it. But yeah, if I had to pick a Stephen King book, it would be The Running Man. It's my favorite book.
Oh, nice one. I like that one. And I didn't know that Stephen King did the Shawshank Redemption. I didn't know it was him that did that.
It was a short story in different seasons. So it was also with The Body, which was Stand By Me was the movie, and I'm blanking on the other one. At Pupil, which was a great one. But they were kind of novellas, and he had 4 novellas. The Breathing Method, I guess, was the 4th one. But yeah, Shawshank Redemption was, and then Frank Darabont was a Dollar Baby, which was amazing. So he got he did The Woman in the Room as his Dollar Baby, which was a short story in Night Shift. So I could go down the rabbit hole with all this stuff. But yeah, and that just to even be in that group of people that got to work with that is an honor in itself. So it would be great to just meet him someday, because I'm such a, I would not fanboy other than my mentally, I'd be losing it mentally, but I would be very calm and collected. It's very professional, but I would be like, oh my God. So it would be like
pretty old fashioned.
yeah. If I can give him a couple of those, but that would be, it would be amazing. But yeah, I just felt honored to even be a Dollar Baby. That was a big accomplishment. But yeah, I'm a huge fan. He taught me to learn to love to read, which I think is probably the best thing you can say about an author.
But I seen that when I did my homework on you, that he taught you how to read.
Yeah, he was the first author I remember buying his books and carrying them around, and just really not understanding. I think that there's an authors make it look so easy, and that's a master craftsman that can do that. Joe Lansdale can do this. Elmore Leonard can do this. And when you read their prose, you fall right into their stories. And it really takes an artist to be able to do that. And I'm always amazed at how they can continuously do that over and over and over again. So it looks easy, but I think it takes a hell of a lot of work to get to that easy part, you know.
Let's get into your tea, Sean. That's why we're here, right? So the tea that you gave, totally excited and attitude. Why those 3 words?
I remember talking to a friend about this, like, what is my tea? What should it be? And this was back right before I won an award in San Antonio, like the weekend, I think I won a script award, which was nuts. This year has been about rebuilding and finding myself again and trying new things. Went through a breakup and basically at the beginning of the year, and I've been rebounding from that in a way that I haven't in other years. For some reason, 55 has become a big transitional year for me. So I think that term kind of sums up my year, the way it's been personally, professionally, creatively, the way I feel about life now. This book's about to drop. I'm going to go see my godmother in Germany in November. I can't wait to see her and see the family there. And So this year is still continuously being an exciting year. And I'm just, that's how I feel about my life from January on. And I knew I'm a big 11 guy. 11s mean something to me. And 55, I thought was going to be a milestone year. I didn't know, I wasn't, when the breakup happened and thinking and realizing I was starting over again, I was like, geez, is this what, I'm doing this again at 55? You got to be kidding me. But it also made me think, okay, I'm going to not spiral downwards. I'm going to spiral upwards. I'm going to live life and I'm going to find myself again and I'm going to be happy and I'm going to work out and just live life in a positive direction. And that's what this whole year has been about. And so, yeah, when I came up with that, I thought that's kind of my year.
Well, I like the word totally. It's like totally cool, dude, right? It's like the Ninja Turtles, right?
Yeah. Well, and it's again, feeling like a kid. I think I feel like a kid always. I still have, Halloween's my favorite time of the year. Watching scary movies and just candy and just being that mindset of that kid that I still am in a way. So I love that. And yeah, totally is a kid's word. And that's where I think too, that it fit.
I like
fits my mindset right now.
I've never had totally for a tea. So, and that's my first.
Oh, that's good. So I'm the first one. That's
totally cool, right? I want to get into the one for the road. That was a production that you did, an audio production.
That was the Stephen King one. Yeah, One for the Road. It was. I worked with actors. I'd done 666. It was my first Audible production, and that was based on a script I wrote, and it became like five episodes. Each one was about 30 minutes long, and I met an actor on there named Kenneth Wayne Bradley, who was in Fear the Walking Dead. He was in Troop Zero. He was in Drive Angry with Nicolas Cage. Again, a Nicolas Cage connection. He was with he was in The Leftovers, an HBO show. He's just a really talented actor. And I remember when I got the Stephen King project, I said, hey man, the story is basically there's two old men in a bar, and it's a snowstorm is hitting, and they're about to close down for the night. And a guy stumbles in, and he's a tourist whose car broke down on the outskirts of town. And the outskirts of town is Salem's Lot, which is full of vampires. So he's left his wife and child in a running car in the middle of a snowstorm and walked his way to this bar. And these two guys are like, let's go get your kids, your wife and kid. But understand, they're trying to kind of say, look, there's something out there. If they're not in the car, we're going to leave right away. And it's just this eerie feeling of, oh, something's going on. And yeah, Salem's Lot ends with the vampires basically still in this town, this community. And so he was one of the actors that I knew I was going to approach for it. And through Ken Bradley, Ken worked with another actor who's a stage actor out of Austin named Ken Webster, who's an amazing actor. So they became the two kind of principals. And I had worked with another actor named Heath Allen, who's like a Tasmanian devil at the mic. Like, he's a very mild-mannered guy, but you put him at the mic and he's just anything you want him to be. It's amazing to watch him go. And the tourist, if you read the story, is basically losing his mind the entire time. So I'm like, I needed an actor who could keep that energy up. And I just didn't think of anybody else but Heath. I thought, oh, and so the three of us, and then I cast other parts around, but they were the main actors. And then Laura Galt, who's a producer for she was a producer for The Outsiders, which just won the Tony, I think, on Broadway. So she was the wife. She played the wife. So getting to have this connection with these kind of people in Central Texas is amazing. Their accomplishments on their own is amazing. So getting to turn Laura into a vampire was a lot of fun. I used watermelon and stuff for her to bite into. It was wild, just old time sound effects. But that was such a blast working with that cast. And I remember working with the three guys. We had done this long scene, and I knew I had it. Like, I knew, oh, we got it. But I was having so much fun. I was like, guys, let's do it again. We're going to go back and do it. Give me another take, just because I was having so much fun sitting there listening to it. And I knew I didn't need it, but I was like, oh, that was great. Let's hear it again. Let's do it again. So it was, we just had that kind of camaraderie, that kind of connection. And I love that cast. The cast I worked with across the board on that one, everybody brought their A game. I think everybody wanted to work on this project because it was a Stephen King story. And yeah, we just had so much fun with it. And when I listened to it, I I like it. My father's proud. He listens to it all the time, and I'm like, Dad, you don't have to listen to that thing again. And he's like, no, I like to listen to it. So he's
You like
proud
the
of it.
watermelon part.
Yeah. I'd probably just listen to him. This was funny too, because all my dad had to say is, thanks, keep the change. And he was so nervous on how to say it. And I'm like, he's like, should I say keep the change? Should I keep the change? What if he doesn't want to keep the change? What if he's asking me all these questions? I'm like, Dad, here, hand me this $10 bill and say the line. He's like, thanks, keep the change. And I got it. But it took like 10 takes for him to do it. But it was the funniest thing. He was so excited being on the mic and working in the studio. So having those little moments is what I remember about that kind of recording. It was really Angela Bartis Peters she's a voice of Fawn, who she worked for Disney, and Fawn, I guess, is Tinkerbell's friend. So she was Fawn in all the video games and the Disney productions, and she's in the production as the daughter of one of the leads, and has this great scenes at the end with Ken Bradley. And I just loved every aspect of that. Honestly, I loved getting to do it. I loved writing it. I loved recording it. Editing it was a hell of a lot of fun. Bringing in the effects and stuff, bringing in the music. It was just a good time. I look, out of the productions, 666 was a hard one to get through. One for the Road was a breeze. I had a blast doing that one. And then Parasite Zero has been a lot of fun too, which is our new one coming out next year. But yeah, One for the Road will always be a special one for me.
Yeah. So what do you have coming up?
Well, Gunbarrel Highway drops as a novel. It's coming out as an ebook, a novel, and an audiobook, read by Patricia Zamora, who's another great San Antonio actress. And it's probably a 4 or 5 hour audiobook, but that's going to be amazing to have that released. I'm hearing the chapters she's putting together and they sound fantastic. So we'll release that. Then next year, I've been working on, it's Parasite Zero, which is kind of like Breaking Bad meets 28 Days Later. It's my nod to George Romero, and I'm a big George Romero and a Pittsburgh fan. He did Day of the Dead, Dawn of the Dead, The Night of the Living Dead, kind of those zombie movies. And this was my take on that world about a drug that infects this town, and these people have to go in, and it's Mexican federales and U.S. DEA agents, and it's a fun one. And it's about 50 voice actors on this one. And I was going to release it as an audio book, but it's become such a big production. I think we're going to release part 1, which is like the first 10 chapters, which is like 2.5 hours. We'll release that at the beginning of the year, and then release the latter half towards the middle end of the year. So that's coming next year. Parasite Zero is an audiobook. I have a new novel that just got through my first editor, the manuscript, called On the Bayou, which is a Louisiana thriller. That's going to go through the editing process, and I hope will be my second book from the Wild Rose Press out of New York. So we'll see how that goes. I'm thinking about doing one of my scripts and trying to do a proof of concept with this wonderful producer I've met out of Spain. And we're going to do that here, maybe make an 8 to 10 minute short film, whether it's a trailer or a proof of concept, like stitching some scenes together. That's early stages of putting this together for next year, but I'm going to try to do that. So I have to admit, I've had this kind of burst of creative energy, and I'm working on these different projects, and I'm having such fun that, plus I'm working as a bartender, and that's beating me down, but in a good way. In fact, like I said, this is my weekend, so I go back to work. Tomorrow's my Monday, even though it's Friday for everybody. For me, it's Monday at the bar. So it'll be a long Friday.
I think it's pretty
and
cool
long
that you're
Saturday.
staying busy, and it shows that you're doing all these different things, right? You're not just
I'm
one
having
thing.
fun, and that's what's exciting. And it's all coming together, and I'm doing it here, and I love that. And there's something about, I live in a small town, but I work at a professional recording studio, and I can connect with professional actors who are accomplished in their own right, in their own achievements. It's amazing what they can do. And I love working with talented people. There is some kind of drive that I think part of this industry works for me, because I know my strengths and weaknesses, and I love working with people who are talented and, that like, oh, I don't do that well, but I know somebody who does. Let's work with them on this project, or let's bring them in on this. I love that aspect of creative work. It's really fun.
So, Sean, how do you guys do that when you're doing casting, like for a movie or a film or something like that? Do people just pop in your mind and say, "Oh, that one would be good for that character"? Like,
Some do now. Yeah, I have like, and I always wanted that. This was weird when we were talking about this. I wanted like a Mercury Theater kind of ensemble group of people that I would always want to work with. And I've amassed a group of actors that no matter what I do, like, okay, they're there. And so the first thing I tend to do is find the places where they fit in. Like, oh, Ken can be that, and Patricia can be that, and Tony can be that, and just put the actor. Heath can be that, and I'll work with casting directors. There's a casting director out of San Antonio named June Griffin Garcia, who's really great. And she's like an ambassador to San Antonio. She knows everybody. So I'll go through her for local projects. There's another casting director named Beth Sepko in Austin, who's amazing. I've yet to work with her on a big project, but I'd love to work with her on something down the road. She's a huge casting director. So yeah, going through a casting agent is the best way to do it. Sometimes I'll bring it, my audio projects tend to be a mix of professional actors, and then I'll bring in family, friends, people that I'd love to do it. And I'm like, yeah, come down and do a voice. You can be a airline pilot or whatever I needed. I had a guy in Canada, of all places, I met at a conference in Chicago early this year, and he just had a great voice. And I said, do you want to be an airline pilot? He said, yeah. And he was able to record it because with a pilot, you kind of you put a dub, they can do it. They don't have to be in the studio. So he recorded all his lines at his studio in Canada and mailed them to me. And we're adding them into the Parasite Zero Part 2. But yeah, I love finding ways to connect with different people, and I'll be approached by actors or people that want to be a voice actor. And yeah, if I have a place for them, I'll definitely bring them on board.
well, for all my listeners out there that have that question on how it works to get cast and all that into a movie and a film, certain
casting directors, yeah, and that's who if you're talking movies, casting directors should be your best friends. Extra work, I ended up working on a lot of Robert Rodriguez movies. I actually got some screen time on Machete Kills and Sin City: A Dame to Kill For. I was a cop. I was also Powers Booth stand-in on that one. So for a couple years, I was doing extra work. I kept getting cast as a cop. I could play cop bingo with all the different versions of police officer I played, whether it was FBI agent or Texas Ranger or highway patrolman, or it's funny, yeah, different outfits. But that just by being there, being smart, being where they needed me to be, getting out of the way when they didn't need me to be. I mean, extra work is the bottom of the barrel. But if you're good, people notice that and they will bring you back. And I went on one production and got on screen, and then they kept bringing me back for a number of different productions through Troublemaker Studios. So I worked on Alita Battle Angel. I was a motorball gambler. We Were Heroes, I think, was a Netflix film he did for kids. I was the mayor of Austin, his stand-in for that one. Different things. So I would come and do different projects for them. And I'm always open to working for Troublemaker Studios. And it just became a thing because I was smart. And when I was there, I was I was a private in the Army, but I understood where I was. And I realized, okay, let me make this work for me. And then they invited me back to the next one and the next one and the next one. I was a highway patrolman, and from dusk till dawn, I got my head cut off. That was amazing. Yeah, that was wild.
Got my head cut off. That was cool.
It was cool. Yeah, it was really neat. When I saw me, I'm like, my head's gone. It was like, there I am. So it was wild, but I knew that was me, but it was still wild to see me. I'm like, that's me. It's just, and little things like that. It's just fun. But yeah, if you want to get into voice acting, it would be casting agents are your best friends, honestly. In acting, casting agents are the way to go.
Awesome. Well, Sean, I asked you to give me one word to describe yourself, and the word that you gave me was driven. Why that word?
Because I especially this year, everything is I've always been driven to move forward, to keep going, to try new things. I don't shy away. Like I said, I've had failure, but I don't let it beat me. I don't mind starting over again. Jesus, I've done that enough. Starting over, it doesn't scare me. I've always been, I don't quit. I don't know if that's a positive trait or a personality flaw, to be honest with you. I don't know at this stage, but I will keep doing it. I will always keep trying. There's always a way. And I find that fascinating, that there's always a way to get things done. And I've never accepted otherwise, honestly.
Well, that's pretty cool. You know, you've taken me all over the place. You've taken me casting, directing, producing, screenwriting. We went all over. Right? We
It's
really
fun.
went
Yeah, this
down
was a
that
fun
gun
conversation.
barrel.
I'm glad we didn't glitch out. We did a little bit there, so I'm glad we stayed connected. That's awesome.
Right. Well, you just got to keep going. I don't give up either. I'm that kind of woman that just, yeah, the wormholes can try and take me, but I'm not giving up.
There you go. That's
It's our little thriller, right? They
That's the
try
only
to
way to
take
be.
me out, and I'm not coming. Right?
Yeah.
Sean, I also asked you what your favorite color was, and you said blue. Why blue?
I don't know. I look at my clothing and it's blue. I like my Jeep was a gunmetal gray, blue gray, that kind of thing. Green is also a color that I gravitate towards a lot. But yeah, it's just, when I get questions like that, I go, boom, what's my answer? You know, like top of your head, and blue is the one that jumped out. I'm blue. Blue is my favorite color, which yeah, I like blue.
I'm a blue blues.
I like good blue. Blue works for me. That's a good one.
You're the man with the head cut off, right?
Right. Yeah.
So, Sean, I want to put a final call out for your book. So your book is dropping November 20th. Put any information, anybody can find it, where they can find all of that good stuff. And if anybody would like to
right now, the pre-release link is at the Wild Rose Press. You can look them up online. I can give you the link. You can include that in whatever you need. That's what's out there now. And then you can also find information about me at audibleparade.com. That's my website, where some of the audio productions, you can listen to the 666 or the Stephen King Project, or even updates on the book, and then links and things that'll send you a different thing. But yeah, for the book right now, Wild Rose Press, and it'll launch officially November 20th is when it comes out.
Awesome. So is there a final message you'd like to leave for everybody out there that might want to become a screenwriter or producer, director, any of that cool stuff?
You keep trying. I mean, honestly, the best way to be a writer is to read and write. It sounds basic, but it's the only way I know how to do it. And I don't know any shortcuts. I wish there were, but I've yet to find them. I just think you just keep at it. You learn from your mistakes. You pick up the pieces of salvage and you try again. And that's the only way I think I know how to do things. So yeah, you don't. And also, you're only in competition with yourself. You're not in competition with anybody else. And I think once I understood that made life easier, where I wasn't putting myself up against anybody else. It was my life, and this is the pace I'm going. How am I doing? You know, so I think that would be something I'd like to leave with people, is that, you know, don't beat yourself up if you're not writing every day 9 to 5. Write when you're inspired, write what you want, and just keep at it, keep going. And if you're driven, you'll get where you need to go.
Well, there you go. There's that driven again, right? Let's just drive it. Let's take you on an adventure. Let's spill some tea together. Well, I think it was really cool to have you and share your totally excited attitude. We didn't really get into the attitude, but I think a little bit during our conversation, you could tell a little bit of Sean's
Oh, I'm
attitude.
sure it spilled out somewhere. Yes. So it came out of the tea glass somewhere. It's there all over. Yeah. This is me. This is me, just how I am all the time. So yeah, lately, this is me.
I think it's really cool, and I really enjoyed our conversation. And
too. Thank you so much for having me. This has been a really fun time.
Sure to check out that book, Gunbarrel Highway, on November 4th. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, it was really cool, and we went down a lot of rabbit holes, and I like to go down rabbit holes and see.
Me too. This was a lot of fun. I'm still on, but yeah. I wanted to say goodbye, but this is really nice. I hope you can hear me. I had a great time. This was a great interview. Thank you so much for having me.
Totally excited attitude. It's been awesome having you here. Be sure to check out Sean Bridges' books, movies, films, thrillers, all that good stuff, and connect with him. The website audioparade.com media here. Check out all of the cool stuff. And I back on the 21st with Sharon Hazel, and we'll be talking about teachers educ.ca education. And then on the 22nd, we have Meg and Kelly joining us. We'll be talking about the travels of terror. And then we're going to be jumping into who do I have on Thursday? Grams is in the house, and she'll be talking about learning solutions. So we'll be talking about multiple different topics, and we'll keep it running, and we'll keep serving tea in a different way. I could not do this without all of you guys. As some of you know, Miss Liz is leaving in December, so stay tuned and check out these tea times. Share these tea times with your loved ones, and we'll keep serving tea until the teapot, it overflows and will make a difference one cup of tea at a time. So then take care, and I'll see you.
Well, I think that's it. That was a lot of fun. It glitched out right at the end, but at least we made it. That was cool.
They try to take me out all the time. Like it's crazy.
But it was good. I heard your exit, and it sounded good.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Sean. And again, live streaming it comes with its bloopers and
It was a lot of fun anyway. I think we had a great, I mean, it was an hour conversation. That was awesome. It was great. I had a good time. That was a lot of fun.
No, that was cool. So what's going to happen now, Sean?